All right, my friends, I am out here in pretty beautiful Seattle, Washington on a little vacation. We got a Nissan Altima as a rental car. This is rental car quality here, but kind of begs for a review. Don't have all my equipment, don't have a microphone, so this is a little rough. So it's a quick review of what I think of the Altima. Now, I've been a fan of this car since it was released, but it's getting kind of old. I think the styling is pretty good. I think it's good looking, but it's not fresh anymore. This is about 7 years old, I guess, in terms of styling. They've freshened it a little bit, but I do think it looks good. Personally, to my eyes, doesn't look better than, say, the new Accord or the new Camry. But let's get inside. And well, before we do, let's take a look at the trunk. Now, it's worth noting the key, I don't know why they did this, using silver buttons. In light, it's almost impossible to see what they are and what they do. Now, after you use it for a little while, you figure out, oh, the fourth button does X. But I don't know, they could have done better there. Like, I don't know, say a Honda or a Toyota. Let's take a look at the trunk. I'm gonna try to flip this around. It's nice and deep, split folded seats, lots of space. I mean, for its mission, it's a good sized trunk, and I do like the rear end of it, actually. I do really like, so overall, I like the styling on it. I've driven them before, I've always liked them before, and I continue to. As it's gotten older, it's gotten less appealing. It really has. All right, so we'll hop in here real quick. And you know what? I've always been a fan of Nissan's dashes and Nissan's seats, but these are really awkward. And I do believe it's because it's the trim line. This is not a higher end one. So there's not a lot of adjustments. I've got forward and back, and I've got the back. That's it. But it feels like the front of the seat is up high and it's pressing me back. It also feels really low relative to my shoulders. So the whole experience is that you're sitting on a bench more than anything else. Once you get moving, it's really kind of comfortable. The steering wheel feels a little small, but it's got forward and back and up and down motion. For the most part, the styling here, I like it, but it doesn't quite pull together into something upscale. It doesn't quite pull together into something that's, well, it's competitive with Honda and Toyota right now. It's just gotten a little old. Now, a few years ago, I would not have said that. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I loved this dashboard. I thought it was great, but it just hasn't aged that well for me. I do like some of the things around here. This little piece underneath the vents, but above the HVAC control. I really like this strip that goes across. It works okay. What I don't like, and I love this huge bin for your phone, and I do love, it's a really, really deep dead pedal down there. It's really far away. Lots of good things here, and let me point this out to you. Good size armrest. It holds its position wherever you put it. Okay, come on, that's good thinking. It proves Nissan can do some really, really basic things. So it's got, some cup holders that really aren't big enough. It's got some other little storage. It's pretty cool. The gear shifter is fine. The engine, it's fine. It's a little on the noisy side. Over certain pavements, you get a lot of road noise. Other pavements, this is very quiet, much quieter than a Honda, or even, I would argue, even quieter than some of the Camrys I've driven. The big problem is, while I'm not against CVTs, this does have a Jatco CVT in it, and I'm going to tell you, it varies between fine and pretty miserable. It's a little, at low speeds, it's a little rough. And then on an interstate yesterday, we were in traffic, and I went to change lanes, and I needed some gumption. I floored it, and nothing happened. Legitimately, no lie, nothing happened for several seconds before the car figured out what to do and how to downshift. It wasn't scary, but I've never felt anything like it. So there's a lot here to like, but a lot not to like. Other things I will say, the steering is interesting. The steering wheel is nice and thick. This is a really good cruiser. I've been very comfortable. In spite of some of these other complaints, I've been very comfortable on interstate travel. But the steering also feels heavy at the same time. So this whole car is kind of a mishmash of, well, everything. Just, it feels like it should be a competitive mid-size car, and in many ways it is, in terms of size and acceleration and price and everything else and equipment. It's pretty fun, but it also feels half-hearted. It also feels like they cheapened out just a little bit on this material and a little bit over here and a little bit on the, I'll give you a great example, the driver warning. So they have lights here beside each one of the side view mirrors, and they've got lights here in the infotainment in the middle. Not the infotainment, the driver notification here in the middle. But it's like they were made by DOS instead of being thoroughly modern. They seem to be a little overreactive. So the whole thing gives a general sense of being slightly unrefined relative to the leaders in the class. And that's partly because it's just an older platform in need of a refresh. You know, if this, to me, strikes me as an excellent used car, but so would that Accord and that Camry too. So another few thoughts here about the interior, both positive and negatives. While the materials on the dash are, in many cases, they're fine, they just don't look as nice as some of the other cars out there. Same thing on the doors. They get a little boring and homogeneous, and you know, I just think they could do something a little more interesting, a little more attractive, either with materials or patterns or something like that. However, some good news, they do give you a big space to put a very tall water bottle. That has been a real blessing while we've been traveling here. Another weird thing is, in spite of the storage space and undersized cup holders and a little bit more storage space, the actual start the car is down here in between the seats next to the gear shift. Now, when we picked this car up, it was at night in a parking deck, right? And they're like, the keys are in the car, good luck, see you in a few days. We couldn't find the start button because we were looking up on the dash where we've seen it. And so we're like, we're obviously being stupid. It has to be somewhere here. And it's this little tiny button, but it should be right there next to the steering wheel where it's obvious, and it's just not. Food for thought. The other big thing is, talking about this, is the infotainment. Now, being the rental grade Altima, this is a tiny screen, very out of date for 2025. And it's okay responsive. It's not perfect, it's not fantastic. In fact, it's given me some problems that when I've had the radio on, if I press the off button, it just ignores me. You have to like really mash it to make it. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it really wants to hang up for a second. Most of the time it's not, but it is almost invisible when the sun's out. If you look at it in twilight or early morning or at night, it's okay. But during this daytime, there's a constant glare on it, and you can't see it from either one of the front seats. So just another example of this car is just kind of a mix. The gauges are fine. The warning area, the driver information area is fine. Everything's just pretty good. Again, it reinforces to me this would make a great used car. All right, one more thing, backseat. Really good space. Now over on the door, lots of the same kind of generic, relatively relatively good, but just a lot of plastic. And again, even though they're doing different colors here and on the B and on the C kind of pillar right here, it's just a little dour back here. Lots and lots and lots of black. It is comfortable. It is comfortable, however, and let's point out, I can get my whole fist above my head right here. I'm about 5'9", something like that. But look at this. Look at this. I get a whole fist between here and the front seat, and this front seat's set where I sit. So it's a really good, again, a really good space. My complaint would be, it does come down a little low right here. You got to be a little careful getting out. And the other thing is this styling feature right here. And you see it from the outside. It helps the car look pretty good. Also creates a blind spot when you look over your shoulder. Not really an issue here in the back seat, but it is an issue. All right, my friends, so we are back home now at Command Central, and I had a few thoughts I wanted to give after recording all of this and after driving the Altima for about 3 days. It ended up, I actually checked, it is a 2023 model. I thought it was a 2024. And honestly, the more time I spent with the car, the more I liked it. But, with a gigantic but, I want to re-emphasize what I said earlier, that this strikes you as an excellent used car. I honestly think if you could pick one up a couple years old and you're going to be spending somewhere around $18,000 for a base level like this, I think it's a perfectly fine mid-size sedan. It's just not at the top of its class. I still will say I like the Altima, and I do think it looks good. I think it rides pretty well. I think it's pretty comfortable. I think it just does everything relatively well. But there's two things I want to highlight here. The first is the interior. That is, I think I was a little overly harsh in my video about the materials overall. It is a little boring, but we also had a chance to spend some time in a RAV4. I believe it's a 2024 RAV4. And you could make an argument that the person who designed the Altima interior also designed the RAV4. Very similar concepts with that floating HVAC control bubble underneath with a little gap with some silver going across the dashboard over to the vents. It's extremely similar, and I would argue after spending time with them literally back to back that the materials used in the Toyota is just about the same as what's used in the Nissan. So I think my hang-up with the Nissan is that, well, certainly the modern Camry and the Accord look better than them. I think it's that many manufacturers are using a greater mix of materials, even if those materials, I want you to think about Ford, for example. A lot of the materials they use are cheaper, but they're using a variety of them, 3 or 4 different materials in different shapes and different colors to add a little bit something to the interior. The Nissan doesn't have it, so it ends up coming across just a little boring, even though I actually think that the style is just fine. But the big issue for me, and I had to think about this on the flight home, actually. I had 4.5 hours to think about it. And that is that in this section of the market, you're talking about the biggest players, Honda and Toyota and Mazda, and not Ford and Chevy anymore. They don't have mid-sized cars. So we'll throw Volkswagen in there as well. The idea is to produce a very reliable, refined car that's value for the money, that's going to last, and doesn't have any glaring flaws. And that's what really hit me about the Nissan. It's 9/10 of the way there. 99 out of 100. But other cars, like my Honda is 11 years old right now, and I've driven it, of course, every single day. I've driven multiple Camrys over multiple days, and you just settle into them, and you never have to stop and think about the car. But the Nissan will, once you're comfortable, something will pop up and you have to be aware of the car. For example, the steering. I'll give you a couple examples real quick. The steering is perfectly fine, and this is actually a very good cruiser, and it has a heft to it that I think some of its competitors don't really have. It feels substantial to me. But once in a while, especially at low speed, you'll go to turn the steering wheel and it's artificially heavy, like really heavy, to the point where you're doing something and you have to pay attention because you have to put a little more force into it. It's a minor thing, but it's something you don't see from the tippy top of the class. You don't want to be parking and suddenly go, wait a minute, I gotta force the steering wheel a little bit. Another example is while the ride is fine, there's nothing wrong with it, over certain bumps, it feels like there's no bushings in the suspension. It feels like you've hit a bump and it's gone right through the suspension into the frame, and you can actually feel it. It jumps out at you. There's multiple things like that, whether it's you glance at that infotainment screen and you can't see it, or you are at a very low speed stop and go and you feel the CVT kind of along the way. It's these little moments that it feels like Nissan just didn't quite finish that development. Like they got 9/10 of the way there and then just kind of stopped and said, good enough. Would I buy one? Yes, I would. Would I own one? I think I'd be extremely happy with one. Would I recommend, say, my son buy a used one? Yeah, I think I would. Do I have some concerns about the Jatco transmission? Maybe a little bit. But overall, it's a perfectly fine automobile. And if you got one with low mileage and at a price discount over some of the other competitors out there, I think it's a good used car. But if you were looking dollar for dollar against the best in the field and you drove the Altima, it just is a little bit lacking. It's in need of a refresh, but I don't think they need to go rewrite the book. They just need to take it to that next level. Thanks for being here, my friends, and let me know what you think below. Appreciate your time.